Welcome to the Ben and Walker Movie Show. I'm your co-host, Ben Davis, joined by my other co-host, Walker Holt, and we're excited to have a conversation with you about one of our favorite things in the world, spice that gives us cool-looking blue eyes and visions into the future so we can go ahead and see Dune Part 2 before Friday. Or Thursday, whenever you see it, because I'm pumped to see it. If this is your first time being here with us, welcome. We're so glad to have you. And while you're here, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with all the latest content that we have. And if you enjoy your time with us today, which we hope you do, leave us a like, share us around, and of course, comment down below with your thoughts on today's show. What are your thoughts on Dune? Did you like it? Love it? Meh on it? Did you think it was half a movie? Let us know. Are you looking forward to Dune Part 2? Walker, what's up, man?
Oh, not too much, man. It's been a good weekend. Weather's really pretty here right now. Spent all day in Pinehurst yesterday. A friend of the pod, Cody, is having his first
Oh,
baby
nice.
girl, and
Yeah.
we had a baby shower yesterday. So
Congratulations to him.
yes. Ben and Walker Movie Show send out all of our love and congrats to the
Yeah,
Paris family.
absolutely. Welcome to the Girl Dad crew. Or just Dad crew.
His girl dad, yeah. And we so Jess and I drove up there and visited him and Mary, and they had a great little party in like this cute downtown venue with some awesome food, and it was fun to see them, see a couple other people I hadn't seen in a while, and then we drove back and woke up this morning and did a lot of grocery shopping, been to Costco and Publix.
Oh, nice. Costco and Publix.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what is the reasoning for splitting those up? Do you just buy bulk stuff at Costco and then you buy like
Yeah,
smaller things at the Publix, or?
there's just certain things that Costco just doesn't have, or that they have, and like things that I just like that are gonna go bad before I can eat that many. Like things that I just don't want to buy in bulk that are just
Yeah.
too much. Like trying to think of what we bought. I don't even know. I mean, now I'm on the spot. What do we buy at Publix? I don't know. I bought a propane tank at Publix.
Oh, nice.
And I don't know.
Those are always fun to
Just
refill.
a little of this, a little of that. Oh, got a Coke Spice. No free ads. Where the new flavor I've been looking out everywhere for. They didn't have zero, so
Okay, what is
yeah,
when it says spice? Are you doing that because we're recording
that's
Dune
exactly
today?
right. I thought of that right after you said that. That's exactly why I'm doing that. This is the official drink of Arachnus. Is that right? Arachnus? It's a planet.
Arrakis, yeah.
Arrakis. This is
Yeah.
the official planet. It does give you blue eyes and hallucinations, and also makes intergalactic space travel possible.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah,
You can
it's
finally visit
normal Coke.
Uranus.
Yeah, it's normal Coke with a couple of the normal Coke spices amped up, and it's raspberry added, and apparently it's like the first new permanent flavor Coke has added to the lineup in a long time. Uh,
Hmm.
it's pretty good.
I'm not a big soft drink
67
guy,
grams
but
of sugar, so it was
no, I'm not a big soft drink guy, but I do
yeah.
drink an occasional like Coke Zero or like Pepsi Zero or something like that whenever I go to the movies.
Yeah, me too.
Um,
The only reason I got this because it was new and I wanted to try it, and because of Dune. But I would have gotten the zero. It's good. It's a lot though. Sweet.
nice, nice.
Hey Ben, what's your weekend like?
Good, man. Weekend's actually really awesome. Just been really relaxing. Yesterday went by way too fast. It felt like it's been a very like short movie weekend. Didn't get into like any watching any movies except for the one we're talking about today. Um, but generally, yeah, been pretty good. Warmer here this weekend. It's only like it's in the 60s right now. It's going to get up to the 70s. So pretty
Very
excited
cool.
about it.
Very cool. That's nice.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But let's go ahead. Let's dive into our show today. This is our monthly deep dive episode where we pick a movie to discuss, usually a movie that is celebrating an anniversary of some kind, one that has a sequel, prequel, spin-off coming out, like in this movie's case, one that we want to discuss to celebrate an actor or director, or one where we are celebrating a holiday and we really just go all in on that film that we pick and discuss how we felt about it when we first saw it compared to now, the Rotten Tomatoes score, get it into some fun facts that are very thoroughly researched. Uh, wrap up the show giving out awards as well to best scenes, worst scenes, best performance. Does this make sense? Which is kind of like a plot hole award. Doesn't always apply to every movie though. I'm finding, and finally MVP of the movie. And as you can see from the title of this episode, and like we've already been discussing, the movie this month is Dune Part 1 in honor of Dune Part 2 coming out this Friday. We originally planned to talk about this in November, but with the writer strike going on, they postponed it. So we ended up not doing a show in November, or we recorded one, it just didn't work.
Oh, that's in the secret vault of the
Yeah,
Ben and Walker movie show. That'll never be heard.
it'll never be heard, but maybe revisited in the not too distant future. But yeah, we were supposed to do it, and we said, you know what, we'll save it, and we will discuss it when it's supposed to come out because we both love Doom Part One. Doom Part One is directed by Denis Villeneuve and stars Timothy Chalamet, Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac, Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista, Sharon Duncan Brewster, Stephen McKinley Henderson, Zendaya, Chang Chin, Charlotte Rampling, Jason Momoa, Javier Bardem, and David Dasmalchian. Freaking phenomenal cast. If you aren't familiar with Dune Part 1, the plot synopsis reads like such according to Google. Paul Atreides, a brilliant and gifted young man born into great destiny beyond his understanding, must travel to the most dangerous planet in the universe to ensure the future of his family and his people. As malevolent forces explode into conflict over the planet's exclusive supply of the most precious resource in existence, only those who can conquer their own fear will survive, Walker. Um, listen, Dune is is based on a seminal novel and series. Like there's a bunch of Dune novels to pick from. Most people, when you talk about Dune, they think of Dune, Dune Messiah, and Children of Dune. Those are the ones that I've listened to. I'm not a big reader. I struggle to read due to dyslexia, but audiobooks are always fun. But this has inspired countless of other science fiction fantasy stories over the years, most notably Star Wars. And over the years, has been many countless attempts to get this vast novel onto the big screen. You had the Arthur P. Jacobs version that was supposed to be directed by David Lean in 1974. The Alejandro Jodorowsky version that was supposed to be like a 10 to 14 hour long epic with music from Pink Floyd, which in the trailer to this movie, they have a little nod at with Eclipse, which is like a really awesome rendition
Hmm.
that Hans Zimmer did, and the Ridley Scott version that he left to direct Blade Runner. And then finally in 1984, David Lynch was able to get his version, put in quotations around his, we'll get to that later, of Dune to the big screen, but it was seen as a disappointment critically as well as financially, grossing $30 million on a budget of 40 to 42 million, although it has gained a cult following over the years. A lot of people stand by it and are quite fond of it. Uh, there was also a miniseries on sci-fi in the early 2000s, I think in 2000 and 2003, if I'm not mistaken. But I never saw them or knew much about them. However, in 2011, Legendary Pictures was able to acquire the adaptation rights to Dune, and by January of 2017, Denis Villeneuve who was coming hot off of his 2016 movie Arrival that landed him a Best Director nomination, as well as it got a Best Picture nomination and a few others as well, had signed on to direct, co-write, and produce the film. Dune would come out in October of 2021 in theaters and on streaming. More on that later. We'll get into that a little bit. And would go on to gross 434.8 million on, which is an impressive feat considering the circumstances of its release, and became nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and would win 6 Academy Awards for the year 2021, the most that year of any film. So, Walker, what is your relationship with Dune? When was the first time you saw it, and how does it compare to how you feel about it now?
I mean, I've not read or listened to any of the books, so I'm not super familiar with the source material. I have seen the David Lynch version. I did find even watch and I saw the David Lynch version before I ever saw the original Dune or the new Dune. The Dune we're reviewing
Yeah,
today,
yeah.
and certainly liked the concept of it and the imagination behind it and the depth of it,
Hmm.
and saw tons of inspiration in it. There were certain things about that David Lynch movie that were like super neat and like interesting how they depicted it. The one that comes to mind is the body shields when they like push
Yeah.
it and like they're the knife slowly penetrates the shield.
You also really love Sting, right?
Yeah.
As Fade Ralpha.
Yeah. And then I saw the Dune we're talking about today. I mean, I didn't think that movie was very good, the David Lynch one, but there was some cool stuff in it. The Denis Villeneuve version that we're talking about today, I did see it in theaters in IMAX. I got in the front row. It was the only seat in the house, and it was terrible. Don't do that. At least not in my theater. It's a nightmare. It's hard to see it.
Just
But
picking
I
section of the screen
yeah,
to look
just
at.
I'll look in this corner for the next couple minutes.
Yeah.
Thought it was great. Thought it was great. I will say we talked about this a little last week. I It's a little intimidating of a movie. I mean, because number one, the story, the material, the concept of it is deep. It's
It's
vast.
dense. Yeah.
It's dense. The lore, the world building, the the out there-ness, like in creativity of it and foreignness of it is very thick, and it's a lot to take in, a lot to comprehend. I mean, and it's a spectacle that you're going to see in theaters in regards to the cinematography and the sound design and just what you're seeing in front of you and amazing action sequences and special effects and all kinds of things. I So it's hard to absorb both of those things in one sitting. You know what I mean? In the first sitting, so like it is a movie that requires a few watches, in my opinion. The first one, I was pretty blown away. I thought it was awesome, but I was like, I definitely need to watch again. And I saw it again eventually, and I got a better grasp of it. Then I watched it again on my honeymoon on the plane. I kept falling asleep, and it wasn't due to the movie; it was due to just the travel. And
Yeah.
I watched the first 20 minutes of Dune 7 times that trip. Just kept falling asleep over and over, and just couldn't get through it. Got home, was like, all right, I'll get through it. Watch it again, and then just recently it re-released in IMAX, and I watched it again. And I'll say every time I've watched it, I've liked it better. I've understood it more. I've developed a better relationship with characters and the story and the motivations behind things. I understand like what piece of the pie we're looking at and what's to come, and I've appreciated the spectacle of it that much more. I like this movie a lot. It gets better every time I see it. I'm extremely excited for Dune 2.
Yeah, you talk about the vastness of it, and you talk about also like the David Lynch version. When you saw that before You
right
saw
before. I saw it
okay,
when I knew Dune was about to come out because I
okay.
wanted.
So I have a funny story. I saw the first Dune when I was really young. I was maybe 9, 10, 11 years old. And how I knew about it wasn't because like I knew about the book Dune. It was because do you remember getting the DVDs back in the day and you open it up and there's like an ad for like more movies from that studio?
Like in the slot on the
It,
left.
it yeah, in the slot on the left.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Not
So
until just now, but yes, I remember that.
okay.
Unlocked the
So
memory.
I used to flip through all those and like be like, seen it, seen it, seen it, seen it. And then I got to Dune on one of them, and I was like, "What is that? Looks really cool." The poster for it, I was like, "I want to check it out." So I remember going to Blockbuster, renting it, and I thought it was really weird. It
Hmm.
was really weird and really out there. I didn't really love it, but I used to work a job where I was constantly driving, and because of that, I was like, you know, I like listening to certain stations on the radio, but and I like listening to podcasts, but I want to like listen to like some big novels. So I remember one of the first novels I listened to while I was driving was Dune. And I listened to the audiobook and again, I never read the book because it's a long book, it's a big book, and a book's a long, big commitment for me. I have to read like one page takes me like reading one page and trying to digest all the information takes me about 7 times to read each page. It's tough.
Hmm.
But I was a huge fan of the audiobook. I don't remember all of it because, you know, audiobooks, it's still hard to retain all of that information, but I remember being a big fan of it and I had huge expectations going into this because of that, but also because it was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who had just did Blade Runner 2049, Sicario, Prisoners, which we've talked about, um, and Arrival as well. Um, like a cool rewatch is to do Arrival and Prisoners because it's about children
Hmm.
and parents' relationship with their children and everything. Both beautiful stories. Well, one of them's very hard. One of them's a very beautiful science fiction story. But Denis Villeneuve, his direction, his style, everything like that, it felt like he could really capture this material and he could really put a stamp on it given what he did with Blade Runner 2049 and how he made that in my opinion better than the first one, which I know is a hot take among some, but I do think Blade Runner 2049 is the superior film. He has such an incredible visual eye for storytelling and letting the camera and the actor do the work. He's an incredible storyteller, and you know, going into this movie was supposed to come out like I think it was like November of 2020. I think it was like November of 2020 or something like that. It was November of 2020, and then it got delayed until October 1st of 2021, and then they moved it again because No Time to Die was coming out, so they moved it to like October later in that month.
Hmm.
And you know, I guess it's still kind of fresh, it's still kind of new, but the fact that won't say it's new, but it's still like fresh. Like there was really no movies to come out in 2020, right?
Right.
Like there was like you had like 2 months of movies,
Bad
and
Boys for
then
Life.
theater. Yeah, it was it was Bad Boys for Life, The Way Back, Onward, Birds of Prey, The Invisible Man, and then that was kind of it.
Yeah.
And the theaters shut down. They tried to open them back up in August, if I remember correctly. They did like a bunch of re-releases. I know that I went to go see Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring in theaters. It was playing here at the local theater, and I went to go see it. That was really fun. I was the only one in the theater, and they also released Tenet as well,
Yep.
which at that time I had already moved back to North Carolina. I wasn't able to go see Tenet in theaters. And in 2021, like I think my first movie back was I want to say it was a Quiet Place Part 2,
Yeah.
maybe.
That
And
was
even
one of them.
then, yeah, and even then, like they were releasing movies here and there, and we'll get into the whole day and date thing when it comes to Warner Brothers and everything that they did there. But I remember this being one of those movies that year where I was like, all right, I gotta go see it. Like this is like the big movie. This is the one that I'm really pumped to see in a theater because it's such a big experience. Now, granted, December of that year, you also had Spider-Man No Way Home, which was also massive. But this felt like it was made for the big screen, and I just remember sitting there opening night in a theater that was pretty it was pretty packed. Probably the most packed theater I'd been to since theaters reopened. And there were some people cosplaying at our local theater. That was kind of fun wearing the outfits that were really well made. And this movie met my expectations. It was just an overwhelming experience in every sense of the word. You mentioned having to rewatch this movie over and over again, and that's kind of how I felt. Like I watched it in the theater, and then I watched it at home multiple times. It's just the sheer size and magnitude of this movie is downright incredible, and it felt like being transported to this world. Everything felt very real, very lived in, and you could feel the love poured into every frame of this film that was just so beautifully constructed. I can't imagine someone making a better adaptation of this movie. I just I can't do it. I can't. It's like Lord of the Rings in the sense that like I don't think Lord of the Rings and this minus the ending have much in common at all,
Hmm.
but it's how they are translated from book to big screen that made it so like they just took it out of my brain and put it on the big screen,
All right.
you know. I think that this is one of those movie experiences that you just have to let shower over you. And over the past few years, when I've rewatched the film, it has only gotten better. And on top of only getting better, it has got me more and more excited for Dune Part 2. And as you can see, I've become a huge Dune fan as I have my Dune figures up here.
Very cool.
Yeah,
They
I had
all
to
wearing
bring
their
out.
still suits.
Yep, it's uh, Raban, Lady Jessica, Stilgar, Duncan Idaho. I don't know why I was forgetting his name, and Paul Atreides. And it's so funny to me that I haven't an action figure of Timothy Chalamet. I don't know why that's funny to me, but that's really funny. Yeah, this is one of those movies, man. Especially at that time where movie theaters felt like I think we were all kind of at a point where we're like, is this are movie theaters gone for forever? You know, like
Yeah.
there have been some big hits, but it didn't feel like movie theaters were back yet.
Yeah, I mean it's a scary I mean it still was kind of a big hit to it. You know, it does it feels like
Yeah.
the movie theater experience has not been the same since that time period, but I am glad that we've bounced back and it relatively resembles what we know and love. But I know it was scary during that time because I mean people who aren't movie buffs don't really care. I mean, it's just, I mean, especially, I mean, people who aren't going to go enough to buy like an unlimited package, and then they have to buy the tickets every time. If you have a family, I mean, it's really expensive to see movies,
It's
and
really expensive.
especially if you're going to eat anything, and then if you're going to go to IMAX, if you have a family of four. But I mean, it's just something it's turned into like kind of a special event that you do occasionally, and then and most people, while they probably enjoy the movie theater experience more, not so much more that it's worth the money and worth the headache of loading the car up and get, I mean, it's just people are just willing to come home. And then when COVID really made that a possibility, it just felt like the world, it was like, no, 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 you don't, you guys want it to stop, and like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, it does feel like it took a hit that's going to have a hard time bouncing back from completely, but I'm glad that it's still in business and we're still able to see stuff. And I'm glad that, like, I mean, we've been talking all week about how our theaters are looking. My Dune 2 is filling up slowly but surely. I
Yeah.
mean, people, it's not booked. I mean, we also live in fairly, remote parts of the country. I mean, Wilmington's a little populous, but it's
It's
not
like
like
Wilmington's
New
pretty
York. Yeah, but it's not
Wilmington's
like a
pretty big. It's
major
not New
metropolitan. I
no,
mean, it's
it's
not
not New
Charlotte
York.
or
No.
Raleigh or New York or you know, these huge markets in the country that I imagine are very filled up. Um,
Yeah.
it would just be. I mean, considering most movies I go to, we talked about this last week. Most movies I go to, there's four other people in the theater.
Yeah. It's pretty packed here. Last time I checked, last time I looked, but it's again going back to that time where we didn't know like if movie theaters were going to survive. What is this going to look like? And you had movies like a, a Quiet Place Part Two, and then you had Fast and Furious, F9, and then you had Shang Chi, and then James Bond, and then this come out, and it felt like things could open back up because
Yep.
those movies were doing pretty well. And of course, I'm probably forgetting a few, but those were the ones that really stick out that did pretty well. And then Spider-Man: No Way Home comes out, and that is the movie that saved the theatrical experience. It was like a one, two, three punch of Spider-Man: No Way Home, Top Gun: Maverick, Avatar: The Way of Water. But I think it was movies like Dune coming out that really showed that, like, despite having streaming on day and date, there were still people that were going. There were still enough people going to the theater to make this movie gross $434 million, while people could stream it freely for $15 a month on HBO, or it's HBO Max. Now it's just, at the time it's HBO Max. Now it's just Max. That's impressive. So I'm really really looking forward to seeing how Dune Part 2 is going to do, considering the response has been universally like, this is incredible. It is better than the first one, and the first one is great. And going to the response of this one, the Rotten Tomato score is really high. Like, it sits at 83%, with a consensus being that Dune occasionally struggles with its unwildly source material, but those issues are largely overshadowed by the scope and ambition of this visually thrilling adaptation. Would you agree with this score? Would it be higher for you, lower? What do you think?
I've got it higher. I mean, I've got it. I mean, the most recent
Yeah.
watch, I ended up on a 91. Um, I think. I mean, I know. I mean, we'll talk more about it later. I know the source material is tough, but
Yeah.
I haven't listened or read the book. But I can imagine just from seeing the movie that it's very difficult. But I mean, what he did was incredible, and I'm not even gonna how how reasonably it's adapted may get it some bonus points, but I'm not. It's not going to take anything away from it if something wasn't perfectly adapted. I think the creativity and the it says scope on here, just the bigness of this movie and how well the story is told, and how tight it is and the performances. I mean, yeah, this movie's fantastic.
Yeah, I think in lesser hands, this could be really bad, and it could feel really truncated and not good. But clearly, the person who directed this, Denis Villeneuve, who was the creative force behind it, loves it, and you can tell he loves it because every frame, as I said earlier, feels so rich and earned and loved and cared for. There's not a frame in this movie where I look at it and I'm like, that's a little wonky or that's bad or like meh. And we'll get to some of this later. Like, I think this movie's damn near perfect. Like, there's not a lot wrong with it. It is incredible. It's a little like, I don't want to say slow. I mean, it is, but it's setting the mood and setting the tone and setting the stage. It's not like the movie drags. I don't think it drags at all. For me, I would probably have it around that 93, 94, 95%. I don't know why I would take off the other 5%. Like, it's not like there's anything in particular that's glaring that sticks out about this movie that's bad. Like, I think this movie's freaking excellent.
Yeah, yeah, I
It
agree.
was
And then you
because
mentioned the slower parts, the slower burn. It's also made up for by like such cool visual. Like even when
yeah.
like we're talking ceremonially, just like interestingly designed spacecraft will land, and like interesting costume design, interesting language and character design and lore and depth and Benny Gesserit. I mean, there's just so much to like take in, even when it's burning slow. There's a lot going on, and it's all interesting.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. And it was, where did this rank for you in movies for 2021? Do you remember?
And I mean, it was definitely top three or four. I'd have to go back and look through it.
I
What did it ring for you? I
if
can.
if I remember correctly, like I had Zack Snyder's Justice League at number 1. At number 2 was Dune. At number 3 was Spider-Man No Way Home. It was 4. Oh,
Coda.
the last duel, and then 5 was Coda, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I had Coda up there. Coda was my number one. Yeah, I mean, I Dune could have been number two. I mean, I don't have them like I didn't have the ratings and rankings back then as I do now, but I mean, I think Dune could have fallen in number two. I mean, definitely, Spider Man is in the world. West Side Story was great. I loved Belfast. I
That
loved
was great,
Pig with
yeah.
Nicolas Cage. I know you didn't like Licorice Pizza. I did like Licorice Pizza. Red Rocket. Red Rocket and Licorice Pizza might have similar issues, but they both I think are good. Yeah, those are kind of like the top group of movies. Power of the Dog I enjoyed, but it's not going to be that high. Yeah, I think it might have been number two. I'd give it maybe number three.
Yeah, yeah. It's a great movie. It had a really good turnout at the Oscars. The biggest, I guess you could call it a snub, was Denis Villeneuve did not get a Best Director nomination for this movie.
It's a shame.
Yeah, it is a shame. It's a big letdown, in my opinion. Jane Campion ended up winning that year for Power of the Dog,
Hmm.
and I don't even think Coda's director was nominated for Best Director, even though it won Best Picture. I'm not sure.
Remember? I don't remember.
Yeah, guys, let us know in the comment section down below. Was the director of Coda nominated? I don't remember. Um, but let's get into some fun facts here. Dave, I kind of hinted at this a little earlier, but David Lynch, the director of the previous Dune iteration, stated that he has zero interest in Dune, this version. He has cited that his issue with the new movie has nothing to do with the director, Denis Villeneuve, but with his own painful memories making the 1984 version. He's quoted as saying, "Because it was a heartache for me. It was a failure, and I didn't have final cut. I've told this story a billion times. It's not the film I wanted to make. I like certain parts of it very much, but it was a total failure for me. And I get that. You know, it's not out of like, oh, it's not my version. No, it's more like this brings up like really bad memories for me. Like if you pour your heart and soul into something
Hmm.
and it turns out like someone else takes it away from you, chops it up and puts it out and puts your name on it, like that's heartbreaking. And I could
Yeah,
understand not wanting to go back and see it.
yeah,
Go back to
yeah.
that world.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, if he really, I guess if he poured his heart into it that much, and I mean, it obviously was not a success. I mean, it's. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier that it became kind of like a little cult classic, but you know, I don't know. I'm not like the biggest David Lynch guy. I don't. I'm not super familiar with his work. I've seen Dune and I've seen Eraserhead. I really don't like either,
Fair.
and
It's
that's
fair.
about the. I mean, I'm basically 0 for 2 with him. And Eraserhead is so damn weird. That's so weird. And then Dune is odd, and I actually don't hate Dune, but I don't think it's that great. And I don't know why I'm trashing on David Lynch. He's obviously an all time name, but I don't know. I
They
mean,
should it whenever I think of David Lynch, I always think of the fact that he almost directed Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi,
hmm, yeah,
but turned it
yeah,
down to direct um Dune because he thought that it would be really difficult to work with George Lucas creatively because he felt like it was more his and he would get the oversight. And in turn, unfortunately, oversight of over Dune happened as well. It appears anyway.
yeah.
Denis Villeneuve previously directed Blade Runner 2049 for producer Ridley Scott. Scott was at one point, as I said earlier, planning to direct an adaptation of Dune. His own film Alien was written by Dan O'Bannon, designed by H.R. Geiger, Chris Foss, Jean Girard, and Ron Cobb, all of whom had met each other while working on Alejandro Jodorowsky's failed Dune adaptation and brought much of their design works from that project to Alien. So if you want to see what Ridley Scott's Dune would have looked like and felt like, probably would have felt pretty close to Alien.
Yeah, been interesting.
Interesting. Yeah, would have been interesting. Denis Villeneuve confirmed in a Variety article that his adaptation of Dune will be split into two films in order to ensure that the original story would be preserved and not cut into a million pieces. However, contrary to the common practice of filming several installments back to back, only the first movie, which roughly covers the first half of the source novel, was greenlit and proceeded or produced rather. Um, with the with an optional sequel depending on how well the first film performed. A sequel was greenlit on Tuesday after the film opened, according to production designer Patrice Vermetti. Is that how you say that, Walker?
Don't know.
The movie The movie was originally supposed to end later in the story, but during pre production, these final two scenes were shifted to the sequel, meaning that some of the preparation for Doom Part 2 had already
Hmm,
been done. And I remember this being a big deal because when they promoted this movie, it was just Dune.
really?
And then when you sit in the theater, Dune Part 1 popped up. And I remember it being a big deal for a few people seeing the Dune Part 1 portion because they
Yeah,
thought we were going to get like a full Dune movie, but
yeah. I
that's not what
loved
happened.
that.
I did too.
I know a lot of people didn't like it. I have heard complaints from people that it's half a movie, but I guess it's certainly more of a valid complaint if we weren't pretty sure pretty quickly that we were going to get another one. I mean, if like it just sat out there as like Dune Part One forever, that would have been a bigger failure than like if it. Like I mean, if it just never
I
happened, I think it
think
would.
I think the fact that they pissed off Denis Villeneuve and so many filmmakers by putting it on streaming as well as putting it out theatrical, and we'll cover more of that later. This is just this is not confirmed or anything. This is just pure speculation on my part. I don't know. But I could see a world in which Denis Villeneuve was pissed off and they were like, "All right, it's fine. We'll go ahead. We'll greenlight Dune Part 2. We'll go ahead. We'll do Part 2 because we did this." I could see where that was a conversation that happened. Again, that's I don't that's not true. I don't know. I didn't read that anywhere. But I could
Yeah.
see theoretically where that could have happened.
Yeah, I just love the concept of it being released as a part one, even before we know there's going to be a part two. I just it almost makes it feel like more of an event. Like I don't know, it's just more to talk about. Like I don't like you can talk. I mean, I guess it's based on source material, so people know things, but I don't know, just the overall theoretical side of it, of like getting half the movie and then being like, I'm excited for what's next. The original David Lynch version. This is a John Mulaney joke, but have you ever heard him talk about the joke about making the happy birthday sign, where he
Yeah, we've all made a
puts the
happy
thing
birthday
in
sign.
huge
Make a
A,
big ass H. Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like, oh god, I can't squeeze it. That's how David Lynch has kind of felt.
Yeah.
Like when you get to the end and like once they met with the Fremen, and like I mean, it's been a while since I've seen it, but in my head I picture like like this green screen, like him riding the worm and being like just like things like going past him, like green screen, like, and he's just like almost like an '80s montage of him
With a score
like
by
kind of,
Toto.
yeah, and him just like kind of doing stuff and things behind him moving. It just like it ridiculous. But so I'm loving the way it's shaping up. Yep.
Yeah. I like how they did that. I do not subscribe to the theory that this is half a movie. I emphatically push back against that. I think, for me anyway, like I think I feel anyway that this is a complete journey in terms of it being a part 1 with exploring the choice of the call or destiny with the main character, right? Because that's how it kind of starts out. The movie puts you in that position of who will be our next oppressor, and you get introduced to Paul, and he has that conversation with his dad, and it's about accepting the call. Will you accept it or will you not? And by the end of this film, we get that answer. It's very, very similar to Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, where yeah, he accepts the ring, but it's about the breaking up of the fellowship, and he finally decides, like, all right, I'm going to take this by myself because if I stick with the fellowship, this isn't going to work. I'm going to take it, and Sam follows him, and it's him accepting that responsibility. This is very, very similar. It's him accepting that responsibility. So I do push back against it being like uh, half a movie. I don't think it's half a movie. It starts out with one question and then it answers that question. Will he accept the call? Yeah, he does, and we'll see if that's a good thing or a bad thing. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what happens in part 2. Composer Hans Zimmer is a big fan of the novel Dune and turned down working with frequent collaborator Chris Nolan on Tenet to score this film. For the same reason, Denis Villeneuve, who was the top choice for No Time to Die, turned it down.
That's a lot of what ifs. It could have been a couple cool movies there, but I'm glad we got what we got.
Well, Ludwig Göransson's score for Tenet's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. Plus, that friendship or that working relationship that started with Tenet carried over to Oppenheimer, and the score for Oppenheimer is incredible.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
got that out of it. And I love No Time to Die. I know a lot of people were kind of mixed on it. I know generally the reception of it was pretty good, but um,
Yeah, I think
people
the
talk about
film's
it as
good.
much.
I just the ending pisses me
Yeah,
off, kind of.
I like the ending.
Yeah, I just
She has, she has your eyes.
it was sweet.
Got me.
I just
Yeah.
I you know what I'm talking about. I just
Oh yeah, I know. It annoyed you. But the score Hans Zimmer did for this, and he also did the score for No Time to Die. Both incredible scores. But he spent weeks, Hans Zimmer, in the desert of Utah alone to assimilate some of the sounds of the landscape into his thinking for the score.
it's crazy how
I think
deep
it
they
worked.
get.
Right?
I mean, I guess that's how they get such out there. I don't know these really talented guys. I mean, the people who are super movie people can. I mean, oftentimes pick it out and think about it and remember it, but like just a common person going into the theater or something, like it's almost like you don't notice the score because it's so perfect. You know what I mean? Like like it's. I mean, it's just you feel the score. You feel the movie like lift you and lower you and pull you, and the score is doing a lot of that. But it's not that you're even like hearing the score. Like you wouldn't be after. I think a normal person who's not like, oh my god, listen to that score. Like a normal person would leave the theater thinking about how they were pulled in towards the screen or lifted up or emoted somehow, but they won't be like, man, that dun, like they it's except I mean over years like Star Wars and stuff, it becomes like a
Well, listen, I think the
recognizable.
score is in it's it's so important to a film, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it can make or break a movie. Like if you have a bad score, it's real noticeable. But like you were saying, like a if you have a really good score, it can elevate a movie because it's musical cues are cueing you how to or telling you like how you should feel and helping you along on the journey. And like I always notice a score because it is the most underrated part of a movie. I don't think it gets enough love. I think score is incredibly important, especially
Mm-hmm.
with movies like this that are like moody
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and have a certain mood. And when you hear a score, like let's say if I'm not watching Dune and I hear the Gum Jabbar music, I'm instantly thinking of Dune,
Yeah.
and it takes me there. Hearing the woman belt that out, it's incredible music. But yeah, score can make or break a movie, man. Yeah. The score was recorded by Hans Zimmer during lockdown. Zimmer's team turned his sitting room into a studio, which was next to his daughter's room. He recalls she will tell everybody that she suffers from bagpipe PTSD because it's 5:30 in the morning and I'm still blasting away and the whole house is shaking. Could you imagine waking up at 5 a.m. to like the bagpipes?
God, I could just hear it now. It's funny, like I was just thinking about the score when you were reading, like I'm just like it's crazy. That's funny. Yeah, I imagine it's
That's
obnoxious as hell.
I mean the bagpipes are great, but could you imagine it's like waking up to that at 5?
No,
Ugh.
honestly, man. Look, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into this a little more. I mean, the score is awesome. The sound design in general in this movie is phenomenal. I mean, I think it's next level. I love. We'll get into more. I'll get into more specifics later. I'll, my movie theater experience recently, last week when I went to see this re-release
Mhm.
in IMAX, loud as hell, dude. I mean,
It's awesome.
just so loud. I mean, it was the loudest movie I've ever been to. I sound like an old man, but it was like, and I guess that's the idea. You got to feel it. But I mean, there was parts that like I'm trying to think of specific scenes, but like things would happen, like just the score would start or the bagpipes would like kick in. I mean, dude, it would like scare the shit out of me. I wouldn't be able to. I don't know. I mean, it was very loud.
Yeah, God, man, I'm seeing it Friday. I wish I could see it Thursday. I have to get up so early for my job. Otherwise, I'd be there Thursday.
No.
Or if I were, in my early 20s, I'd be going without a care. But I'm 30 years old with a kid. It's different now. It hits different.
Yeah.
Staying up that late, I can't survive. I'd be unbearable the next day. Donald Mowat initially considered creating custom lenses for the blue-eyed Fremen characters, including Zendaya's character. However, VFX supervisor Paul Lambert and the visual FX department ended up digitally adding Fremen's iconic blue eyes during post-production. Mowat explained, "We did a couple of practical lenses for at first for Zendaya, and then I thought, who am I kidding? We're in the Middle East. There are sandstorms, heat, and dust. It will be a disaster." And I get it because, like, that's such an iconic look. And it's not like normal looking blue eyes, it is like deep blue, bright, almost shining through eyes, right? Like they're piercing blue.
Yeah. Killian Murphy
And
style.
if, yeah. And, and if you do practical, it won't look as like otherworldly, but with visuals, you can do something that makes it like, okay, those are blue eyes, but like those are like real blue eyes.
Yeah.
Like
They also. I think the eyes look good. I think whatever they did
they
was
look
fine, and
great.
I bet it would have
Yeah.
been a disaster in doing it with context. But they don't just do pupils, right? I mean, they almost like it's almost like stained eyes. Like it's not even like a like I don't know how it would have worked with the context. I'm trying to what movie Evil Dead with the big contacts that they wore over their eyes.
Yeah, the white.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not even like just the pupil. Like the surrounding the whites of the eyes are a little stained too. Like it's almost like
They look
and it seems
bluish.
intentional,
Yeah.
and it creates a cool look that is I don't know different than expected.
Yeah. It's an awesome look. Um, really did a fantastic job. Um, so Roger Deakins was initially set to be the director of photography, having worked so successfully with Denis Villeneuve on his previous movie Blade Runner 2049, which I think he's the one he finally won the Oscar for. Scheduling conflicts meant Deakins was unavailable, so Greg Fraser took up the reins. Both Deakins and Fraser won the Oscar for Best Cinematography for their work on Denis Villeneuve's projects. So yeah, he did win for Blade Runner 2049. And Greg Fraser is an incredible cinematographer.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
really making a good career for himself between the
yeah.
Batman and the creator. Even like I mean, I know the creator wasn't
Mhm.
necessarily the biggest hit of the year, but it that was the best part about it for sure was the cinematography. I mean, it was a spectacle. It was beautiful.
Yeah, he is a incredibly talented person. When
Hmm.
it is to me a crying shame that the
Like
Batman
Rogue One.
didn't just wasn't just yeah, he did Rogue One as well. Wasn't just nominated. It didn't get nominated, but it also should have won. The Batman's whole
Hmm.
aesthetic, the way that movie was shot was incredible. And with this too, same thing. Which he won for this.
Yeah,
Um, this movie's beautiful. He is an incredibly talented person. Warner Brothers announced, and this is where we'll get into the whole HBO Max and streaming day and date thing. Warner Brothers announced that the movie will be streamed on HBO Max just as it hits theaters. With the whole day and date thing happening during 2021, it started off with a Wonder Woman 1984 hitting HBO Max in December of 2020. Director Denis Villeneuve has voiced his displeasure, claiming that the studio might have just killed the film and that streaming can produce great content, but not movies of Dune's scope and scale. Warner Brothers' decision means Dune won't have the chance to perform financially in order to be a viable, and piracy will ultimately triumph. My team and I devoted more than 3 years of our lives to make it a unique big screen experience. Our movie's image and sounds were meticulously designed to be seen in theaters. Villeneuve compared watching the movie on a TV to trying to use a speedboat in a bathtub and expressed concerns that releasing the film on streaming would kill its box office potential and thereby the viability of the proposed sequel, Dune Part 2. However, Warner Brothers eventually made good on their promise that the sequel would be greenlit as long as the movie was successful, including the numbers of views on HBO Max. And despite the Denis Villeneuve's pleasure of the film being concurrently released on HBO Max as well as cinemas, it was the most watched film overall in the US on the streaming service for the first 3 weeks of its release. Um, so yeah, we talked about this. Like, look, I get. I think we're in an era right now where we are pivoting kind of away from every studio going all in on streaming, and we're seeing a
Mhm.
pivot back to the theatrical experience because that is the most you can't there's a certain cap you hit with streaming, and it took Netflix several years to even be profitable. With theaters, you're getting money, like like it's you're getting like I don't know. It's just it feels like that's the best way to get revenue, and they're pivoting away from streaming. And look, I'm not one of those people where I'm like, oh, movies must be seen in a theater, because there's plenty of times where I've seen a movie at home and I'm gone, This is a great movie." Regardless of where you see it, a great movie is a great movie. It could be on a plane, it could be on a boat, it could be in a car, it could be on your cell phone, it could be on a laptop. It does not matter. A great movie is a great movie, and great stories transcends the screen that you watch it on. I am not someone that buys into that, oh, well, movies must be experienced in the theater. No. However, I do think that theaters and the theatrical experience is incredibly important. And if I'm going to watch a movie, my preferred choice is on the big screen. And it is such a damn shame that the studio cut out the legs from a lot of these movies, because you're cutting your revenue down by a lot because people could just stay at home and watch it for free or borrow their cousin's login and watch it that way instead of paying money to go see films the way that they were made to be seen, which is on the big screen, especially spectacle movies like this, Top Gun Maverick, Avatar, movies
Yeah.
like that. Great, no matter where you watch them, but that theater experience is just so engulfing. It is immersive. If you watch it on your laptop, you're going to be distracted. At least I get distracted. But like, this is a movie that must be you must immerse yourself in. And thankfully, it was still a big hit despite being released on streaming.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, and I agree with everything Denis Villeneuve said. In response to the decision Warner Brothers
Yeah,
made, but it feels like you got to mention. I mean, the decision Warner Brothers made worked out. You know what I mean? Like it was watched by a lot of people. I think Dune
yeah,
2 is kind of following up with exactly how they wanted it. I mean, and I think it's got a lot of hype. People are going into it expecting an experience in the theater. And I mean, so I mean, I agree. I mean, I love the movie theater culture. I mean, I agree with everything you said, but I do think the theater adds, it elevates some movies, especially the ones you just mentioned, Maverick, a Marvel movie, a Star Wars movie, a Dune or Oppenheimer, Christopher Nolan epic. Just a lot of these big movies are definitely elevated, and then even things like comedies and horrors that are smaller in terms of size, but bigger in terms of community, and
Mm.
watching it in a room with 40 people and having the theater laugh, which is contagious, and it feels like a group event, or having the theater jump scare or whatever it might be. I mean that's valuable, I think. And then there's other smaller things. I mean, obviously, you just have state of the art screens, state of the art sound. The way any movie, past lives, even it's
Yeah.
it's the best. I mean, the best experience is watching the movie. However, you can watch the movie, watch the movie. But if you have the luxury, if you can watch it on the screen, you get the best screen quality, sound quality, and then also the focus, just the culture behind. Like even if you sit in the theater by yourself, it's dark, huge screen in front of you, you're not also looking at TikTok in the movie theater. You're not also finishing up laundry while the movie's going on and pausing it and going back and forth, and like the dishwasher's not running in the background. And I mean, you're watching a movie and you're absorbing it in the best possible scenario. I agree with everything you said, but I do think it adds so much the
Yeah.
theater experience. But it's also tough. I mean, we said it earlier, it's expensive, it's not easy. It's not like it's that hard to get to the theater, but when there are much easier options out there, it can be
Well,
tough to
also,
justify going.
this was during the pandemic. Like, I
Yeah.
understand people not wanting to go to the theater during this time because their loved ones could be put in harm's way. Because at
Yeah.
that point in time, we didn't know, we still didn't really know what we were dealing with,
Yeah.
not know fully, and it's a scary thing to go out there and put yourself in that position, and some people just might not want to do that. So I get why people, especially during this time, were hesitant to go back to the theater. But yeah, you're right. I mean, it might be a blessing in disguise that this movie released day and date, because I'm hearing so many people talk about the Dune Part 2 that I would not have known they were even into this.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it did work in their favor. Yeah, but let's move into our award section, man. Um, Best scenes and moments. Narrowing this down to 10 was tough. Not gonna lie, it was a tough feat. Um, I got here. Who will be our next oppressors? So this whole entire opening, the whole throat singing or vocalizing of dreams or messages from the deep, like when I saw this in theaters, that caught me off guard. It was so like freaking loud,
Yeah.
like it caught my attention. And then you hear like the thumping, the dum dum dum, like it sets the tone, the feel, the story we about what we will be getting. I
Yeah.
really really love how they introduced this.
I do too. I like the language they used as well, like just the verbiage for the exposition for us to like understand. I was it an excerpt from the movie. It sounded like it was written like a book.
Yeah,
I mean, excuse me, was it an excerpt from the book? Oh,
I don't remember a lot of the
yeah.
book. I heard it, I remember loving it, but I don't remember a lot of
No, yeah, I understand that. Yeah, it just the way Zendaya is like speaking at that point kind of seems like something from a book, and I don't know, the exposition really helps like kind of set up what we're about to feel. And I also love the transition of like who will be our next oppressors.
it.
Timothy
Well,
Chalamet. You know what I
yeah, it's
mean?
Timothy Chalamet, and it because this movie, well, the novel itself too, it goes into the whole like, there's the chosen one trope, right? And this is pretty much it's the opposite of the trope. It's pointing out the flaws in the whole chosen one narrative, right? And the dangers that can come with faith, and how faith is a great thing, but it could also be a bad thing. It can be used to do some terrible stuff, as we've seen even in our own human history.
Yeah.
And this kind of points to that, and it sets it up perfectly because you see it goes right to Paul, Paul Atreides, who will be our next oppressor, and that's not done on a mistake.
Sure.
Uh, for those who are not aware of what happens in all of Dune, but Paul talks with his father, Duke Leto. Number one, love Oscar Isaac. I love seeing him in anything. He reminds me so much of my friend, one of my best friends, Corey. So anytime I see him in anything, it makes me smile. Um, but I love how this establishes a couple of things. One, it lets us in on why they were given Arrakis. You know, we already kind of hear at the beginning of the film, like the Harkonnens have been essentially Arrakis has been taken away from them, and it has been the Emperor has given it as a gift to the Atreides family, right? But he's doing that
Right.
on purpose to set up a war because he feels threatened by the Atreides, and it establishes what uh, Duke Leto wants to do, which is form a relationship and a bond with the Fremen. So, in case anything happens, they have that sand or the desert
Desert
power, as he
power.
wants to call
Yeah.
it. Yeah. We are going to cultivate desert power.
Is that just so I'm like understanding the story right? Is so the Emperor takes Arrakis away from the Harkonnens, Harkonians,
Harkonnens.
Harkonnens,
Harkonnens, yeah.
and gives it to the Atreides because he feels threatened by the Atreides power
Because
and
people look to them for
is
leadership and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, and this is going to provoke a war because they took it away from the Harkonnens. Is he
Mhm.
threatened at all by the Harkonnens' wealth? Because they do mention that the Harkonnens, due to like the like, is he trying to eliminate both parties? You know what I mean? Like, because
He's
like he
trying to
mentions that
eliminate
they
both
became even
parties.
richer than the Empire or Emperor, and I'm just wondering if he's trying to set up a war to make both of them fight and weaken both of them, or if he's if
Pretty
he's
much.
if it's targeted towards just the Atreides. Is
It,
both? You
it's
think it's
toward,
just a
yeah.
yeah? Okay, okay. Sorry, I just
No. That's a perfectly valid question. But the other thing you get in here is Paul expressing like his doubt about leading and the struggling with the idea of it, and Leto comforting him and the whole like if you say no, then you're still the only thing I've ever needed you to be, which is my son. Which is kind of a sweet moment.
yeah, it's great. I mean, it's somewhat unexpected when you watch a movie like this and you find this guy in a leadership position, and it's a succession type of story. You just expect more of a hard nosed tough love type of scenario, and Oscar Isaac sells it great. I mean, he sells this like touching father figure that's truly a father
Yeah.
first and leader second.
And he's just telling him like, "Hey, like listen, I wanted to be a pilot. I didn't want to do this,
It's a little
but
Poe Dameron, different
yeah."
universe.
Yeah, cuz he's also in Star Wars, which inspired Dune. But yeah, I think it's a really sweet moment and shows like this unconditional love. Like no matter what, you're still my son. I don't care what you decide to do, but give it a try. It might grow on you. You'll find your way to it maybe. But Gum Jabbar slash Paul realizes he might be the Quittez Haderach. This scene is incredibly intense, man. The acting, the pain on Timothy Chalamet's face, and how it's like constantly increasing. And by the end, you get like this look of like just this like this like focused, like blocking out the pain on his face. Like it goes from being like, this is bad, I can't take it. He's like screaming, and then you hear Jessica, doing the whole like fear is the mind killer, which is like one of the greatest quotes ever.
Yeah.
Only I will remain. It'll pass through me, and only I will remain. It's so cool. And then he like the score too is iconic.
Yeah, it's a very cool scene. It is very intense, and you're kind of at an early part of the movie where you're still getting your bearings. Like you're still trying to like, what the hell's going on
Hmm.
here? You know what I mean? Like you're still trying to, and then all of a sudden we're really kicking it into gear with that, and it's in this new intro. I mean, it's just so unique. It's, I mean, like that's, I mean, I'm gonna say that over and over. The movie is so, and the story. I'm sure the source material, but we're talking about the movie. It's so creative and unique and different than anything else out there. And and you know, Denis Villeneuve somehow makes it digestible for us. It's very cool. I like this scene a lot, and I
Well,
remember this scene. This is one of a scene that I liked a lot in the David Lynch one too. This was one that stuck out to me.
yeah. Well, the thing is too, like it introduces you, which you get introduced to it earlier, but the concept of the voice.
I love the voice. The voice is one
I
of my
do
favorite
too.
parts of the movie.
It's so creepy.
It's
It is so
I,
creepy.
I've mentioned sound design several times. The first time I hear that voice, or the his attempt at the voice, well, second time I guess when he, you know, passed in the theater, it's awesome. Like when it goes
Yeah.
like silent. I don't. It's the coolest. It's kind of
Bring
like
me the water. Yeah.
Django Fett's Sonic Boom thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like a, like that was weird. That made me feel weird. You know, like it's I love it. It's great.
Yeah. It makes you feel uncomfortable, but then you get like the idea that what the Bene Gesserit has been doing is they are the ones actually in power because they are manipulating everything
Mhm.
based off of centuries of manipulating bloodlines in order to create their savior, which is the Quitaz Haderach or whatever, who can see through all the time. And it was supposed to be because the spice allows you the ability to choose if it's going to be a boy or a girl, and she decided to go with boy, which is not what she was supposed to do. And he has
Oh,
this
I didn't even
power.
know that. I didn't even know that. Okay, I
Yeah,
get that.
she was
So the
supposed
spice
to
get okay.
bear a daughter, but Leto wanted a son. So because she was in love, she bore him a son. And
Mm.
they talk about, you were supposed to, in your arrogance, you thought you could bear the Quitas Haderach or whatever. And she said, "Well, was I wrong?" And it's like this arrogant response of like, "Ugh," like he could barely do this, that, the other, but he's talented, Like it's like
Mhm.
Mace Windu in the Phantom Menace. But yeah, it's both scenes are really good, and then that realization with Paul overhearing that conversation going on, and that again, the performance from Timothy Chalamet in this movie is incredible. I think it's very understated and just really really good because it's all in the face, all in the eyes, all in the posture. I mean, Timothy Chalamet is an incredible actor, and very versatile as well, and seeing him come to the realization that he might be this chosen one figure and the
Mhm.
weight that he feels with that, but also the pride that he feels in that at the same time, and the pride that Jessica feels too when she's told, like, when they leave and she's doing like this, like, smiling, crying, happy face because it seems to me that she wants power, right? Especially because
Right.
she wanted to make him the Kwisatz Haderach or whatever. Great scene. Sandworm attack slash Kwisatz Haderach awakes. Again, the voice creepy. Visually incredible, stunning, and just it's jaw dropping.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know, it just wakes you up in the theater. I mean, you're there to. It's just an exciting part to be in the theater
With
for.
it
It's beautiful.
running away and just the sand rippling as
I know.
the worm gets closer and closer and closer. And meanwhile, he's having like an acid trip.
Yeah.
It's freaking out. Great scene.
Yeah.
Assault on the Atreides family. Um, you know it's coming, but still doesn't make it any less heartbreaking, nor does the heartbreak take away from how epic this sequence is.
Yeah, it's intense. And watching it most recently in the theaters, this whole sequence was like edge of your seat stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I was captivated by it. Again, you know it's coming, and then just kind of how it unfolds is very spooky. It's eerie. It's creepy. They set it up in this like fear. The fear is present when it happens, and then and it just gets worse and worse and worse, and eventually, obviously, ends with a lot of loss.
Yeah, a lot of loss. And then Duncan, my favorite part, one of my favorite parts from this is when Gurney runs into battle, and that's the last time we see Gurney. Is the armies colliding in this big
Yeah,
explosion? Obviously, he's in the sequel. We'll see what happens, but I also love the part where Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho, which is such a cool name.
yeah.
See, he takes out a couple guards and he points at the other ones with his sword, and they just run away. I
Yeah.
thought that was great. Love that little touch. Paul's spice attack.
When he's tripping out.
Mm, yeah, tripping out in the tent like this. He's sweating profusely because the spice has gotten into the tent. This just feels like a fever dream.
Yeah.
Paul's true fear of what he'll do and how he's reacting to all the horror he could cause is so incredibly well acted by Chalamet here. And same with the reaction with Rebecca Ferguson. Like she's like like terrified for her son because he's seeing all these visions and all these things that he will do in his father's name, right? He keeps saying, in my father's name, and
Yeah.
freaking out. And, the you made me a freak, get off me, Benny Gesserit, like just the
Oh, and he
frustration.
does the voice then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a good thing. You know, it's intense. I'm just sorry. I'm sitting here like just like putting myself in the theater again, just like watching it while you describe it. It's great.
Yeah. It's great. Duncan's final stand.
It went out with a huge bang.
Dude, it is
Um,
so badass. And do you want spoilers or no?
Me
Yeah.
for Dune 2
No,
for
it's
the
not
whole
Dune
thing.
2. Yeah.
No, I don't want anything.
Okay.
Don't give me anything. Don't give me anything that
Okay.
I don't know from this
But
movie.
his
I've
final
seen the
stand.
original Dune. The original
Okay.
Dune goes, or the David Lynch goes a little further into it, but I don't remember a lot of that. I don't want anything into Dune 2
Okay. Fair
or past
enough.
or anything after this movie. Sorry.
Okay. No, you're fine. Duncan's final stand is awesome. And the way that he like takes out like what is it, 19, 20 people or something like
No,
that
it's
by himself,
nuts.
gets stabbed and then gets back up and is like, "Wah!" It's so cool. Paul flies into the storm.
Just the like when he just like turns it off and
Trust
lets
the
it.
force, Luke. Yeah.
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 Yeah, it's intense, and again, another theater banger. I mean, it's loud, it shakes, it's wild.
Yeah. This movie's just it's engulfing. It consumes you and it becomes overwhelming. And the best ways, and this is one of those scenes that it works not only as a thrilling sequence, but also metaphorically, and how Paul will master his fear by, letting it pass through him. So only he will remain to fulfill what he is starting to believe is his destiny. Yeah. The worm chase sequence.
I don't know how they do it so well with the like. I don't know how they took their vision or this material and picturing this vast desert. I mean, deserts obviously have their beauty and their I don't know larger than life visuals when you're looking at like a beautiful untouched desert and stuff, but somehow they are turning it into like they're using it in this new way. I don't know. It's almost like a tsunami, like when they're using it, and it's just something I've never seen before. It's just that I keep saying that there's so many things about this movie that are new to me, like just new to my movie or entertainment experience that get the juices going. It's great.
Did the scene get you excited for your Dune 2 popcorn bucket?
It did. I think that's AMC only, so I won't be able to get it. But I don't think my hands are quite built for the butthole. But I mean, I think it's like. I mean, first of all, I mean, I also grab big handfuls of popcorn, and
Do
it's like it will
too.
filter it down to. I mean, maybe it's a good thing because I do tend to drop a lot of popcorn because I
I,
grab too much.
I waste not. Every bit of that popcorn goes into my gullet. Like yeah, I inhale popcorn, so I will not be
Sometimes
getting
I'll
the
grab
bucket.
too much and it'll just like
Popcorn.
fall
I might
down.
get it
And
for
this
other
one,
purposes. Don't judge me, but no. I
it's
won't be
fun.
getting the Dune 2 popcorn bucket. But yeah, no. In terms of the sequence, yeah, this is just visually incredible. And seeing the worm pop out at the first, like, it's just yeah, that is sick.
Yeah.
And then the end of the movie, Paul accepts the call. You know what this entire movie has been building towards, the question of the film is him accepting, what he believes is his destiny. Will he accept it? Will he not? And what that means for the future, if that's a good thing or means to be remains to be seen. But I think the way that this film decides to end at that part, I think is a wise choice because it's a really good way to stop reading the first book too. So, or at the halfway point of the first book.
Yeah, this is the hook that makes you feel like where this is only the beginning. That makes you feel like we're in for a
Mhm.
big time ride coming up. That really, I mean, again, I'm seeing it Thursday. Can't wait.
Lucky.
One thing I'll say, about these favorite scenes. I know we're gonna pick like our favorite scene here in a minute, and there's a couple things I'd like to add in there, just quickly.
Yeah.
And one of them is I love the first Josh Brolin Timothy Chalamet training session with the
That's a good one.
shields and fighting. I think that scene's great. I loved the
Conans are brutal. The way he says it.
I love the fight scene, like the challenge scene at the end where
Hmm.
Timothy Chalamet has to kill his first person and he won't kill him. He's like, yield. They're like, oh no.
Yeah, you gotta take him out, man.
Yeah, I love little things too that you introduce. I love the little fly or thing that like flies and like
Mhm.
Chalamet catches it and it's in there to attack him. I love the tooth. I love the character design of. I know these aren't parts, but that's kind of the point of this movie. I love more than any. This is a true. I love the sum of the parts more than any one of them. Like, there's not like. I mean, I'll pick up my favorite scene, but none of them stand out to me. What stands out to me is the collection of them, how they make this movie whole. Because like even super little things like I don't know like their names, and I'm not too familiar with the lore and stuff yet. But when the calculator guy, when he like rolls his eyes back and he's like 1.6
Yeah,
million, I think that's sick. I love that. I love the Stellan Skarsgård. I mean, he's
the
great in the
Baron,
movie, and he's weird as
dude.
hell.
His performance is so good. There's so many visual cues as well to Apocalypse Now and Marlon Brando.
Oh yeah. It's true. Yeah,
A lot. That's kind of who they base it off of. In the book, it's a little bit different, but
yeah,
they really bring him to life. The whole like he's so overweight and big that he can't even like control his own body weight, and then he has to be levitated, and then the back thing when that thing, the noise it makes when it clicks on, the like that when it clicks on, he can like move himself, and the whole like rubbing of his face and stuff like that. It's like
Oh, it's I know, and like
it's
the
really good.
oil, the sweat,
Yeah,
just the levitating, how big he is, and like how he like floats towards you, and like the camera angles on it are great. I love the I mean, I love Stellan Skarsgård too. I think he, and especially in the last, I know he's always been a great actor, but in the last couple of years, what he did in Andor was awesome. What he's done in this, he's just the whole Skarsgård family. Honestly, is just
they're
uber
really
talented.
talented. Yeah,
I love the and I love the tooth part. I love the it kind of also the Baron kind of reminds me a little bit of Vader. Like the first time we see him with like the helmet dropping down
hmm
on his, is that an Empire?
yeah.
So something about that kind of like just him in like his tank getting, I don't really exactly know what's going on, but he's getting recharged or something.
He's healing up. I love the
Yeah,
way
I
that he
love
says, "My Arrakis, my Dune." Yeah, it's great.
yeah. There's just so much, so many great like little pieces of the pie that make this great movie. But like I'm saying, the culmination of all of it and these characters and these ideas and points, and I love the exposition. I love how they use the training videos for Timothy Chalamet to like teach us about
Yeah,
the planet,
it's a
and like the
great
Fremen and their
little
walk
tool
and
that they use as exposition without it feeling like, "Let me explain this
forced.
to you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
The still suits are cool. It's just all so cool. I love just the logic of the planet and how hot it is, and the tradition they add to it. Like there's so it's so deep. Like the tradition of the palm tree thing, and just all these little things. I'm interested in every sentence of the movie, and that is the best part of this movie. That somehow
it's the whole movie.
throughout, yeah, I mean it's tough to say it, but it really is like impressive how they have so much there. And I imagine the book. I should read the book. I can't read, so it's hard to get through. I don't want to. It's going to take me forever. But I guess we need to pick a good favorite
I
scene.
mean, for me,
It
it's
can't be the movie.
you could be like me, cheating. What's your favorite movie, Ben? Star Wars? Oh, which one? 1 through 9?
Yeah.
No, I think you can. I don't know. I mean, for me, it's when I think of this movie, it's the Gum Jabbar sequence.
God, that was mine.
You
That's
can
what I was
pick
gonna
it
pick.
too.
Yeah, no, I
You can pick
can't.
it too. We can both
I'm
agree
gonna
on it. Yeah, you can. We can both pick it. We both like
fine,
if we both
fine. I'm gonna
land.
pick it too.
Okay, like yeah, I think this is the scene I think about when I think about the movie, and it also has the quote like the fear is the mind killer.
Yeah. It I think this scene's really cool, really intense, really interesting. I've said it 45 times. I'll say it one last time. I guess that's the point. I was gonna say none of these scenes stand out to me that much. It's more of just it's constant throughout the movie. But I guess this one does stand out to me a little bit. When I think
Yeah,
of the movie, I do think of the scene. I also think of the scene I added with Josh Brolin and Chalamet training with the
yeah.
shields on. I think the shields are just cool.
The shields are
They
really
were
cool.
even interesting in the David Lynch one. Like, I mean, they were blocky and weird. It kind of reminded me of like Rock'em Sock'em robots, like the way the design was on them. But I don't know. It's just such a cool
Yeah, kind of
design. But yeah, I'm gonna go with the Ganja part too.
good one. Good
Hand on
one.
fire.
Uh,
The
Worst.
performance is great too. I mean, the pain he's
Yeah,
going through is
the performance is fantastic.
I mean, like if I were to be like, all right, Ben, do that right now, and just you have to be like,
Yeah,
it's just I can't. I mean, how does he do it?
there's a reason I talk about movies and I'm not in them. It's because I'm not a good actor. Worst scenes and moments. Look, I don't really have any. I don't. There was something I had that I was gonna say, but now I was like, you know what? No, like that's such a little nitpick that it's not worth talking about. So like, nah. I don't have anything. This is one of those movies, those rare movies, but they do happen where I can't think of anything or put anything that stands out where I'm like, no, that's bad. Like, no, there's nothing in here that I think about that with.
I actually completely agree. And even if, let's say Dune 2 comes out and it's like, well, it's not even like bad. It's let's say Dune 2 comes out. Let's say when Dune 2 comes out, I like it even better. And it's like, what's worse about this one? It's like, it's not worse. It's just like anything that I don't love about this movie, which is very few things, if anything. It's not that I don't. It's not that it's bad. It's that we need the second one to come out to complete the feeling. You know what I mean? Like I'm left hanging on certain things, or I want more, or I want this, but I'm gonna see it later. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's just not done. And I don't mean that in a half a movie sense. I don't. There's not even really any of those things. But that's the only thing I have to like want that I wish there was more of is a more movie. So I'm excited for Dune 2. Yeah, I don't really have
Yeah.
anything either.
Best performance. Who you got?
I think it's got to be Chalamet. I mean,
Yeah.
I now the cast is stellar and they're all good. I mean, you know what? You have Chalamet.
Yeah, I got Chalamet.
I mean, Oscar Isaac's awesome in it. Stellan Skarsgård's awesome in it. I mean, Chalamet's in so much of the movie that it, and
A lot of
Zendaya's
the
in
movie
so little of the movie.
hangs on him. All right. Like,
Yeah,
if he's not good, then it hurts the movie. Like a
yeah.
lot.
I mean,
Um
I think that's the answer. Let me. I'm going to pick one of the other two just for the sake of giving them credit, so we can get two in here. I'll go
well,
Oscar
I just
Isaac
think
with
the
Stellan
reason
Skarsgård
I
right
go
there.
with okay.
I like all three of those. I mean, I think Timothy Chalamet is the answer. I think he's the answer. I just want, just for the sake of giving more kudos, I want the to bring in a second one.
Yeah, I think the reason I lean toward Timothy Chalamet as Paul in the role, and I think I wrote something similar to this when I or said something similar to this when I reviewed the movie. In a role that could easily be very one note. He adds so much more depth and complexity to it that's more than on the page. It's very much your stereotypical hero's journey chosen one type role, but he adds the dimensions of like this self-assuredness mixed with the confidence that knows he's capable but isn't sure what he should be doing with it lends itself to a great performance. Ooh, excuse
Yeah.
me. But yeah, I think it's a great performance. That's why I pick him.
Yep.
But yeah, I think what's the next award? It's a Does This Make Sense award. This movie's pretty tight, man.
Yeah, I
Like
don't got
it's
anything.
yeah, got nothing.
I think it's on. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I do too. It explains everything. MVP of the movie.
I'm gonna have to go with Denis Villeneuve. I mean,
Okay.
I think he took. Again, I haven't read or listened to the book, but I've listened to the internet and what people who are fans of the story and stuff have said, and I imagine at one point in time the movie came off as pretty much. I mean, the book came off as categorized as very tough to adapt.
Yeah.
It's high concept. It's very creative. It's going to take a large budget, and even on its relatively large budget, you still have to be meticulous and thoughtful with how you're using that budget to get as grand of a scale as they got. And you have to instill a lot of confidence to bring in a cast that's so epic, you know, that they did. And you know, I've mentioned so many times of all the good things about this movie, but one of them would be the, you know, the direction and how they make this desert feel terrifying and like this new character of itself. I mean, he made a hell of a movie, and I'm hoping he's going to make a hell of a series here.
I think he will. I think look, if you're gonna go Denis Villeneuve, because I think you know, this movie doesn't work unless you have him behind it. Because I mentioned it earlier, like his love and care for this source material is so evident when you watch the movie. And if you're going to go with him, I think I'm going to go with Hans Zimmer because the score
Yeah.
adds a lot to this movie as well,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it puts you on Arrakis. It puts you on these places and puts you into this mood, and it sets the tone perfectly from little choices, little weird little things that he has going on. It won best original score at the Oscars that year. It should have. Like, this is an incredible score. I've listened to some of Dune Part Two score, and let me just tell you, it is as good, if not better, than the score for this. And I can't wait to hear it boom in the speakers. It's
Yeah.
going to be awesome. Um, but at the end of the day, Walker, why would you recommend this movie?
I mean, it's just the next big thing right now. I mean, if you so I don't necessarily think it's for everybody. I mean, I would need to recommend it to who I think would enjoy it. You know, Rim's not watching this movie. My lady Jessica across the house, she's not watching this movie. She's not
Really?
interested at all.
I thought she would be into it.
I don't think you could pay her. It's not her thing. But so I'm going to see two this week with it's gonna be great. It's gonna be the boys' day. Like pretty much all my groomsmen except Spencer. I'm gonna go see it with my cousin Andrew, Colton. He's in
As I
town
say,
for
you
a
seeing
little
it with
bit.
Colton?
Colton and Tanner. Um,
Nice.
and we're going on Thursday night to see it on opening night, we're gonna get dinner beforehand. Go out, it's gonna be a great time. Tanner hadn't seen it yet. He's watching it the first one this week in preparation for it.
Oh, nice.
So I mean, if you like science fiction, if you like this type of thing at all, this is the creme de la creme. I mean, this is some of the best you're gonna get. I mean, if you enjoyed Star Wars, this inspired it so much, and you can see it, and it's obvious, and in some ways, it's more creative. Uh, It's unlike anything I've ever seen in a movie. It's I've said it so many times today. It's spectacular, and I mean that in with the root word spectacle. It's creative, it's unique, it's different, it's larger than life, it's deep, deep, dense, and I mean that in the best way. I mean, it may take a couple watches to soak it all in, but there's so much there, and so much thought put into the source material, and then so much thought put into translating it and adapting it on screen. It's high budget, and it looks like it. It's beautiful. It's epic. It's cool. It's fun, and it's the next big thing. I mean, it's the water cooler movie of right now. I mean, we're gonna. This is if you want to
Right
be
now
in
we're
on what people
starving
are
for
talking
like
about.
a big movie. We haven't had like
Yeah,
a big movie. Like my favorite movie of the year so far is Lisa Frankenstein, which is a great movie. Don't get me wrong.
sure.
I enjoy the hell out of that movie. But like I'm looking forward to like a big movie that's not so niche that I can experience with a crowd, and
Yeah,
this
me
is
too.
that
I
movie.
can't tell you how excited I am because it is so rare. Just I mean, we're all adults. We all have families and jobs and things, and different people have different interests. And you got to for me to be going to the movies with a group of the boys on opening night to a huge movie that I'm actually excited about. That I think at least most of the guys I'm going with are all also excited about. That the movie theater looks like it's starting to fill in pretty nicely. I mean, it doesn't get fucking better than that. I am stoked
It
for it.
don't. It
It is rare. I mean, this type of like star aligning thing can happen at best once a year. It doesn't happen that often. I mean, it's I'm ready for it.
Yeah, I am too, man. I'm so pumped for this. And speaking of groomsmen and Colton, if you're listening to this, please come on the show at some point. It'd be fun to have him. We got to get
Yeah,
him
well,
on.
yeah, I'd love to. I love to. I
Yeah.
talked to him on the Super Bowl the other day. We just talked movies the whole time. We were just going through them. It's like you see Past Lives? Love Past Lives. Like it's just constantly like back and forth. It was great.
Yeah, dude, I used to so many memories of me and him talking for hours just about movies. At some point, he's got to come on the show. I'd love to have him. Walker, or not Walker, Colton, if you're listening. Fuzzy Worm, come on the show. Come on the show. But yeah, I love this movie so much. If you're a fan of science fiction, especially if you're a fan of books and adaptations, this is one of the better ones. This is a great science fiction story, as well as a story that plays with the idea of chosen one and playing with the ideas of different houses and religions and politics and how all that works together. It's a very rich movie, very deep movie, without the without trying to sound pretentious. It's a deep movie, and philosophically, I think it's a great movie. I really really love this movie a lot. I think, you know, like you were talking about, Walker, if if you want to be part of like the cultural moment, it's right here, it's right now. Go on Max right now, stream it, watch it, and then go to the theater, biggest one you could find, and watch Dune Part Two.
You're here.
Yeah,
I agree. Does that do it?
that does it for me, man.
All right. Well, I guess that does it for this week. Thank you all so much for listening. If you're hearing this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thanks for watching, for catching us on YouTube. Be sure to like and subscribe for more movie talk each week. And let us know down below in the comments, what did you think of Dune Part 1? Are you excited for Dune Part 2? And if you've already seen Dune Part 2 and you're rewatching Dune Part 1 because you couldn't get enough when you got home and you got online to look up more people talking Dune, let us know what you thought of that. With that said, this has been Ben and Walker, and we'll see you next time.